Hello everybody, Yinka, put your phone down because we're working now. Welcome to the anniversary True Crime Tales told by me. This week we're going to get into one that's a little bit of a mystery. Even though it does have a conclusion, I'll explain why it's a mystery while we do the video. Anywho, 88 years ago this week, the search for the Lindbergh baby, a child that had been missing for 2 months, came to a heartbreaking conclusion when the body of little Charles was found. Now, even though someone was found guilty for this crime and they were executed, there are some questions that have never been answered. Before we get going, I just wanted to say that this week is also Madeleine McCann's 17th birthday. She is another ridiculously, extremely famous missing child and a case that we all know about, just as the kid was in the case that I'm going to tell you about today. So it's just a coincidence, but I thought, whoa, that's crazy, right? Okay, but back to the case at hand. 2 months, 12 ransom notes, $50,000 being handed over to the apparent kidnappers did not bring a happy ending to the parents of Charles Lindbergh Jr. Even though this case is almost 100 years old and I try to steer away from cases that are ancient, I couldn't not tell you about this. Before we get into the story of what happened to the baby, I think that I should tell you about his parents, specifically his dad. Charles Lindbergh was famous, like Kim Kardashian famous, like the world's first celebrity famous. He was the first aviator, the first pilot to fly solo across the Atlantic Ocean from New York to Paris. That made him huge. So when on March 1st, 1932, his 1-year-old baby and namesake, Charles Jr., was found missing from the family home, it was big news. The kidnapping was thought to have happened between 8 and 10 p.m. It was the nanny who discovered that baby Charles was missing because he wasn't in his room or with his mum. Charles Sr. found a ransom note. It was badly written, had grammar and spelling mistakes all over the shop in the baby's room, in an envelope on the windowsill. There were footprints leading up to the window and the remains of what looked to be a stepladder was found. Word of the kidnapping spread so quickly and soon the house was surrounded by hundreds of people just trying to catch a glimpse. All of these people meant that crucial evidence around the house was lost, like the footprints underneath the baby's room. Pretty shortly after little Charles went missing, the state of New Jersey and the Lindbergh family raised money towards a reward for finding him. Altogether, the reward came in at $100,000, which in today's money, in 2020, is almost 1.5 mil. On March the 16th, so a few weeks after the baby was kidnapped, the lead investigator in the case was a man who went by the name of Condon. Sounds like condom. He received a toddler's sleeping suit, like his nightie, by mail and a 7th ransom note. So in the 2 weeks that the baby had been missing, they found 1 at the scene of the crime and then 5 more and then 1 on the 16th of March. Altogether, they received 12 ransom notes and the Lindbergh family paid 1 of them. But the police and the family had a plan. They put the ransom in a unique wooden box with the hope that it would be identifiable later. The serial number of the bills were noted as well and they were photocopied and sent out to numerous banks all over America. And some gold certificates, which I think are like certificates for gold. So you have this amount of gold, right? And then instead of carrying this because it's really heavy, they just give you a certificate. They were due to expire and they were easily traceable. And all of this was in the hope that the kidnappers, after the baby was returned, would start to spend the money and they would be found. But little baby Charles would not be returned to the family. Like I said at the beginning of this video, it was this week, 88 years ago, on the 12th of May, which is Madeleine McCann's birthday. Like, mind-blowing. His small body was found by a truck driver about 4 miles from the family home. The baby had been killed by a blow to his head and had been hastily buried. It was also deduced that he was killed, if not on the day that he was taken, then very close to that day. So the ransom notes, they all came after the baby had been killed. Some of the money from the paid ransom actually was found, but it was all over the USA and exactly who had spent them, they weren't able to find out. In September of 1934, so 2 years and a bit after the baby's body was found, a German immigrant carpenter named Richard Hauptmann was arrested for the crime after he was identified as acting suspiciously as he paid from one of the notes that was identified as being from part of the ransom. They found a $10 bill in a gas station. Richard Hauptmann had an excuse. He said that he had been holding some money for a friend who had since gone to Germany and passed away, and that's why he spent it, but the police were having none of it. When the police searched his home, they found a considerable amount of additional evidence, they said, that linked him to the crime. One item was a notebook that contained a sketch of the construction of a ladder, which was similar to that found at the house in March of 1932. The detective, Condon, his telephone number along with his address were discovered written on a closet wall in the house as well. And a key piece of evidence, a section of wood found in the attic of the home, after being examined by an expert, was determined to be an exact match to the wood used in the construction of the ladder found at the scene of the crime. After a trial that lasted from January to February in 1935, he was found guilty of first-degree murder. He was sentenced to death. He continued to profess his innocence, but all of his appeals failed and he was executed in the electric chair. Or, I don't know, that and firing squad, no, hanging and injection, they're all mad. Gas, oh, you know what? He was executed in the chair at the state prison on the 3rd of April 1936. This case seems cut and dry, but it's a conspiracy. From the jump, Charles Lindbergh was heavily involved in the investigation. He was told things that, you know, dads of missing kids when they're being looked for should not be told at all. The police in the case were under so much pressure to get a conviction to solve this, because of course they were dealing with celebrities, that some people, a lot of people, there were loads of books, there were loads of documentaries, even Richard Hauptmann, the guy who was executed for this crime, his wife for many years campaigned to get him posthumously exonerated, because she said that she was with him on the day that the baby was kidnapped, that he wasn't even anywhere near the Lindbergh estate, and not only that, he had never ever been to that part of town. You know how America go, they were not having it. The evidence that was found in Hauptmann's house years and years after has all been disputed. People have said that he was a scapegoat. Like, I've read articles in the New York Post, in Vanity Fair, in Vogue, who are like, yeah, this guy was scapegoated. But it does lead us to the question, if Richard Hauptmann didn't kidnap and kill the Lindbergh baby, who did? I don't have the answer to that question. That's why it's a conspiracy. Some people think that it was Charles Lindbergh himself. I saw a thread on Reddit, and I know that they are dangerous, yeah, but it was 10 things that you need to know about the Lindbergh kidnapping, and it was scary. I'm not gonna read all 10 of them, but here are a few. A week before the kidnapping, Charles Lindbergh played a joke hiding the kid and pretending that he was kidnapped. Charles Lindbergh did not allow the household staff to be questioned. A glaringly obvious kind of point is that it would be really difficult for one man to carry a baby down a ladder 2 flights, the baby was on the 2nd floor, and rock away. So whether or not you believe that it was George Hauptmann or it was somebody else, the case of the Lindbergh baby has been debated on Reddit, on Wikipedia, on Quora. How do you say that? Quora? I don't know. For decades. It's 88 years old now, and we do not know what happened, but we do know that somebody was executed for the crime. I've put all of the research links into the box below. Don't you think it's mad that it falls on the same day that Madeleine McCann was born? Because that's a conspiracy as well. Let me know what you think, and I'll be back next week with another true crime tale in the anniversary.